Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Luke, chapter 18, verses 27. And this is Jesus speaking to the disciples. And he said, "The things which are impossible with men are possible with God." I'm going to repeat that. And he said, "The things which are impossible with men are possible with God." Now, we get this a lot, and people want to use, when they interpret this, just wants to tell everybody, with God you can move mountains, and you can do this, and don't you stress and don't you worry. And they go on the big extreme of, don't forget that with God you can do all these things. But I want to say something that's a reminder. Because why does the scriptures constantly remind us that we can do anything with God? Why do you think that we need to be reminded of something so powerful? It is because we are flesh and we get caught up in our emotions and our feelings. Satan tries to keep us in them. Why? Because he knows that whatever we are facing, whatever we are going through, whatever our situation is only going to be temporary. That because when we have God in our lives, we will overcome the situation. He will see us through it, no matter what it is. Loss of your loved one, your child, losing your house, losing your job. This thing will pass. God will see you through it. You may not like the outcome because you don't understand what God is taking you, what He is teaching you, but you will overcome it. And see why it's so important to remember that with God all things are possible, even though we see no way out of it. Is because when we stay in our emotion, caught up in our feelings, those feelings lead to anger. They lead to hatred and even unforgiveness, which is all the main things that are opposite of God, which is love, forgiveness, grace, and mercy. And that's why the enemy wants to keep you captive in your emotions, to keep you held there. Because if you're stuck in your emotions, you're bitter. You're staying mad, you're being blinded by your anger. You no longer see the love. It's already hard to see what God is going to give us. How is He going to make it right through it? I just don't see no way out of that, and where we're going to go and what we're going to do, and we have this now. He wants us to be stressed out, caught up in the midst of it. Here's the thing, we can only see what is right in front of us, but God sees the whole thing. So we're freaking out. But even in tornadoes and hurricanes, in the middle of it, right in the middle of the storm, right in the middle of the eye, there is peace, there is stillness, there is calmness. Even though everything right around it is all chaotic and crazy and life-threatening, there is still peace in the middle, in the eye of the storm. So we got to remember that whenever we're going through, what seems just impossible, what just seems chaotic, what just seems like a big hurricane in our lives, there is peace even in a hurricane. There is peace in the middle of a tornado. That no matter if it seems there's no way out, there's no way we can come out of this, what are we going to do? God's got you. And things are going to be a little bit more different. Like if somebody loses a house, I mean, if you have to stay at a shelter, or you're camping out on your, tents out on your property, or have to stay with relatives, it may not be the things that we find ideal for the time being, but it is something is always better than nothing. But you can't see into the future. You don't know what God has planned for you. And sometimes what you get at the end of it is something better, like you get to move to a different spot and have a different house. And some people get it; it's an upgrade, and some it's not an upgrade. Some it's a smaller home or apartment in some place that they don't want to go, and they feel like, God, you just took that from me. Now I'm in a lesser place, but you're still being taught something. You still are having a roof. The home that you have is still something that somebody was praying that they could have, because they have nothing. And if you didn't learn the humbleness out of the situation that you was just in, then you're not learning what God is trying to teach you, what He is trying to show you. See, one of the main key things about walking through heaven's door, because it speaks it over and over and over and over and over and over again in this great book, is to be humble, grateful. The Israelites' main problem wandering around in the wilderness wasn't because they kept committing sin after sin. God forgives sin. Is that they wasn't humble. They wasn't grateful. Even in the middle of them being humbled, in the middle of their humbling, they wasn't content and grateful for what God was doing for them. He was feeding them bread that came down from heaven, and they complained about getting heavenly bread. Wandering around, it was like, hey, we might as well go back to slavery, because even when we were slaves, we ate onions. Could you imagine saying that you wanted to go back to being a slave because at least you got to eat onions? It's written in the scripture. It's crazy. Humble is a big lesson that we're all going to be taught, because one of the main things, one of the key things about having that heavenly gate opened up for you is a very humble character.